Hello everyone, Cercion here. How are you all doing today? Back in 2019, we received the lukewarm release of the Generation 8 Pokemon games Sword and Shield. I have a lot of good and bad memories of playing this game during the first few months of its release, but at some point, like most of the Pokemon games of yesteryear, I stopped playing it. It wasn't until recently when I picked the game back up to hunt for a shiny Regieleki that I began to feel nostalgic for this game, which I've unfairly labeled as mediocre for the past few years. I wanted to go on another adventure through this region and rekindle the wonder I had during my initial playthrough. And it was in that same line of thought that I came up with the idea to go on a nostalgia quest. For those of you unaware of what a nostalgia quest is, it's a sort of challenge where you play through a game with the intention of catching the same exact team you caught on your first adventure. However, this time, they're all shiny. In that regard, this challenge provides a beautiful means of blending the nostalgia of your first adventure with a brand new twist. With introductions and explanations now out of the way, let's begin. I'll largely be skipping over the introduction of Sword, mostly because I won't be able to catch my first shiny until after I've set foot in the Weald area, but I will give y'all the highlights. I wake up in my house after watching a video of Leon show off his massive Leon to a stadium full of people before meeting my rival Hop, who urges me to follow him down to Wedgehurst station so we can meet his big brother Leon. After witnessing Leon aura-maxing in front of a small crowd, he takes us aside to hand us our starter Pokemon, who are unfortunately shiny locked, so I name my Subble NA in defiance and proceed to mop the floor with Hop. Feeling embarrassed about being so utterly floored in front of his big brother, Hop elected to go cry in the woods where I'm forced to go save him from being mauled to death by a wolf. We make our way over to Sonia's afterwards to receive our Pokédex before booking it over to Professor Magnolia's house for a rematch with Hop. Unfortunately for Hop, the span of 10 minutes was not enough time to surpass my single Subble's might, and he lost yet again. Feeling pity for the poor lad, Arceus decided to bestow Hop with a wishing star, but accidentally dropped 2 of them, allowing me to receive my very own Dynamax band the next morning. Hop and I then headed down to Wedgehurst station to grab a ride down to Motostoke, but due to a herd of Wooloo blocking the tracks, were forced to disembark at the station near the Weald area. And it's here where my nostalgia quest can finally begin. Kinda. For those of you who've watched some of my previous shiny hunting adventures, you know that I only catch my shinies in luxury balls. However, the only place where you can buy luxury balls in Sword and Shield is at Winden, which is at the literal end of the game. That is, unless you go for option B, and purchase them from one of the Watt traders dotted around the Weald area. It took me roughly 2.5 hours to finally find a trader who was willing to sell them to me, but with my luxury balls now in hand, I could finally begin the hunt for my first team member. Now, a lot of you are probably confused, considering you can't catch Subble within the Weald area of Sword or Shield. However, I don't intend to hunt for a shiny Subble. Not yet anyways. No, the Pokemon that I was gonna hunt for first was the region's regional bird, Rookidee. It took a few days, however, not nearly as many as I was expecting, and before long, at only 3,477 encounters, I found my first team member. I gave my feathered friend the name Alexander and began training him up on some of the bugs over on Route 1, mainly Grubbin, Blipbug, and Caterpie, as they would give Alexander EVs in attack, special defense, and HP respectively. However, I couldn't train here forever, especially thanks to Sword and Shield's encounter mechanics. So I eventually began training Alexander on the Choodle over on Route 2 for more attack EVs. I decided that Alexander had done enough training once he reached level 13 and made my way over to Motostoke Stadium to complete my registry for the gym challenge. I elected to go with the number 81 as it was the number in the national dex for my favorite Pokemon, Magnemite. We had a brief encounter with Team Yell over at the Badoo Inn before making our grand appearance in front of our soon-to-be adoring fans within Motostoke Stadium the following day. Following that, Hop decided he wanted another rematch, in which he actually put up a very decent fight, nearly knocking out Alexander had it not been for the Citrus Berry and EV training I gave him beforehand. With Hop defeated once more, I made my way over to Route 3 and the Galar Mine, making sure to battle every single trainer I came across along the way. And it was within the Galar Mine, against Worker Georgia, that Alexander evolved into a Corvus Squire. Before exiting the mines, I had a brief encounter with Bede, who didn't really stand a chance against my newly evolved friend, especially when using the move Power Trip in combination with the move Hone Claws. With beads to beat, I could exit the mines and make my way over to Route 4, where Alexander and I continued our campaign to trounce every single trainer we came across. I also managed to find a Sharpbeak just lying in the dirt, which would increase the power of Alexander's flying type moves by 20%. After a chance encounter with Milo and an unprompted history lesson from Sonia, I made my way down to the Turffield Stadium, where I was told to wrangle in a herd of Wooloo for my gym challenge. Naturally, I did this without issue. I even managed to level Alexander up to level 22 before completing the gym challenge, which all but sealed poor Milo's fate. For defeating Milo, we're awarded the Grass Badge along with a few concessions from the lobby staff. But I think that's enough for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and maybe subscribe while you're at it. Every little bit helps. With that said, take care and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.